thanks for joining us. Jeanne and I have been passionate about artists and art galleries and the experience of art all the way back to my IBM days when I got my first award and I bought a piece of art with it. First, everyone else goes, "Don't you want to just go out and party?" I went, "No, I want art in my home." So
Okay.
this is, and so many people are now more isolated at home and really looking at their environment. But the important thing is the experience of the gallery, where you can see it either in person or virtually and get that sense of looking around at different art. One of the things that we've had requests and worked with artists on in the past is, how do I get into a gallery? And we've done a lot of experience from coaching, but we thought we'd want to hear it directly from you. If an artist wants to approach you, how do you want to be approached? What's the background? And we have a few questions we'll go through.
Let's start by having you introduce yourselves.
Okay, Sue Beck, and I'm Carol Mann. And we
you are
represent the Lemonade Art Gallery.
And that's there in Washington, North Carolina, correct?
It is. That's correct.
Can you tell us just very briefly about your gallery?
Well, we're a local gallery. We try to encourage people that are local artists to join us. We have 18 other artists.
22, I think.
Or 20 other than the two of us here. Sue does jewelry, I do watercolors, and then we have everything from wood to
pottery,
glass, all kinds of things. We try to have a vast assortment of art, and we try very hard for our artists not to compete against one another. So we would only have, say, 1 or 2 oil painters and 1 and 2 watercolorists, and so that they're not competing against one another. We want to be the best gallery in the area, not and compete with the other galleries.
Mm-hmm. So as you look at artists to represent, how do you go about that selection process? And I know you mentioned you want the best and that you want variety and to avoid competition. Are there other things that you look at as you're discerning, the artwork that you're seeing and making decisions about who you'll represent?
When we started, we were in a large art gallery, the Inner Banks Artisan Center, where there were 70 artists. And what we did was we looked for the art that was selling the best and we invited them to join us because they were already successful with their type of media that they were using. Since then, basically, we've had some recommendations from some artists that are already in our gallery. And we've also had people approach us that want to be in the gallery. And some of them we'll ask for 3 or more of their pictures or of their media. And we will look at it, and Carol and I will decide to put it in the circular file because it just doesn't seem to fit into what we have here and the quality that we're looking for. Or we tell people when we have space, then, we'll get in touch with you because right now we're full, which we are. But we want to make sure that the quality is good and is something that our customers are going to want to purchase.
And another factor too is price range. We are a small town in Eastern North Carolina. We're not New York City or Chicago. And so although the artist's work is valued at a very high price and he or she should get that price, it's not necessarily going to fly here in Washington, North Carolina.
Right. So it sounds like you're saying artists who are interested in submitting their work need to really be familiar with the gallery. So they need to look, if they were looking at your gallery, kind of look what your price points are, yes. Look what the quality of the art is and see if theirs is, equal to that. And then it sounds like you prefer to have more established artists as opposed to emerging artists, or do you find that you have a combination of both?
I don't know that we have, we have some small space that we might try an emerging artist. We have a couple of emerging artists that, haven't shown any place before, but those are like small spaces that we have in the gallery available, or we've made space for them. But as far as the large displays, we want basically proven art that has been selling.
And how do you find out whether the art's been selling or not? Do you do some research about the artists and beyond I know you mentioned seeing them in another larger gallery previously and all. How do you look into that?
Well, that, of course, we had the experience because we were part of that large gallery. So we saw what was going on and we saw what was selling. And that was basically where we started as far as determining how well they sold. We also look at personalities. What is going to work? Because we have one artist in particular, but we have artists that want to come in and they just have a very caustic personality. And we don't need any stomach upset. We want everybody to be happy. And
positive situation, yes.
Right, and work together, especially when we have art walk or we have receptions. We want people that are going to get along personally.
A team.
Yeah.
What I hear with that is what we call approachability. And, someone can be an introvert and develop approachability skills. So it doesn't mean that's their natural way of operating, but they learn to put it, they organize themselves to do it. So that's a great point.
Well, they're very passionate about their art. We have one artist who happens to be one of 16 people in the world that has attained master status in scratchboarding. And she tends to be an introvert. But when she's here, she's happy to explain to customers what she does and how she does it. And so she puts on a different face.
Sounds good. I know you also mentioned a couple things. You mentioned that you learn about new artists you might end up representing through artists that are already exhibiting with you. And so one tip we could give artists who are hoping to be able to get their work into a gallery, they might network with other artists and develop those relationships first so that they can maybe get access to more galleries and things. So that seems to be something you mentioned. And the other thing you said, that one of the ways you get new artists to represent is that they make contact with you or come in and show you their work and all. What would you recommend to artists about that? Do you like being approached? Do you want artists to schedule appointments with you? What's the best way for artists to meet gallery owners and try to get their work into your gallery or in front of you?
I think either way works fine for us. We're pretty flexible. As long as we're here, we're happy to talk to them for a few minutes. But we really want to see samples of their work. We don't want to see pictures on their phone. We would love for them to bring in their work so we can see it firsthand.
So it might be them showing up at your place, meeting you, and then saying, would you be open to me bringing in some samples to see it? Something, not necessarily walking in the door with it. It's the first.
Well, they've done that though.
Okay. Well, tell me, is that okay for you? Or
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're open to all of it. Great.
Yeah.
As long as we're both here,
we're
because
here.
now there was 5 of us, and 5 of us had to agree. Now there's just 2 of us, and we pretty much have the same tastes. The other thing they could do is call us or contact us and say, here's my website or here's my Facebook page, so we can get an idea of whether it's something before they come here with pieces. We'd get an idea of whether it's something that we would be able to display.
So as you say, whether it fits in your gallery, what is the vision for your gallery? Do you have a theme-like type of vision or some aesthetic vision that you have for it that you would like them to comply with?
Not really.
No, just diversity. We just wanted we want to hit all areas.
Our 2 woodworkers, one is wood turns and the other is woodwork. We have 2 watercolorists. One is realistic, as Carol's work is, and the other one is a little bit abstract, but a little bit softer. At one point, we had 2 photographers. One was only local photography, and the other photographer, we said, we don't want any local photography. It has to be travel photography or nature. So, because we just don't want our artists competing against one another.
Right. What other tips might you give an artist looking to be represented at a gallery in terms of things they could do to get to know the gallery owners or to get their work in front of them?
Well, bring your best work. And present it in a nice way, just don't throw it on the counter, which we've had.
I was going to say, I hope you hadn't learned that from experience, but
yes. Sometimes they just come in and just put it down. And it should be framed or it should be matted or
a nice presentation.
The presentation's important.
if they could only afford one frame, make that it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's also an indication of how much you care about your work as to how you present it. If you just throw something down or, you say, well, this is a little bit ragged on the edges, but I can do better. No, we want to see the finished product. We want to see what is going to be on display.
Yes.
And do you ask them for an artist statement or to, be able to present their thoughts about their work to you when you're meeting them and considering them for your gallery?
We get an artist statement from everybody, which we frame and we put next to their art. In the future, as per Martin, as per your instructions or suggestions, we're going to do videos with each artist also, so people can meet them and interact with them other than just a photograph and some written words.
I think that's going to be a successful strategy for you. Everybody loves video these days.
If I came into your place and I said, hey, I've gotten a chance to look at your art and I'd love to share mine, and I brought in some art, and I also brought with me and said, I also have a YouTube channel with some samples of Meet the Artists, and I have 1,000 followers on Facebook and an email list with 500 people I'd love to bring along. How would that be more appealing or not as appealing?
I would say that would be very appealing to us.
Absolutely.
Because we now see how difficult all of this is to put together, and, so anything that's already done and they're willing to share because, of course, they put the work into it. Great.
And that's also a sign of their following, is a sign of the desirability of their art, or I suppose, as you look at it as well. So developing some of their online presence would be helpful so that you could see their work and see people's response to their work then.
Sure.
I talked to a gentleman that used to own a small bar in a small town near Colorado, and he said when a band came, the first thing I said is, what are your followers? What type of music? Give me a quick answer. And if the followers are big enough, he was even more adaptive to the type of music.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because that's going to be more people in there.
Right. And he wanted to get them in there. And in my experience with smaller galleries, they don't have a lot of, you don't have a lot of bandwidth to do extra advertising. So if they're bringing with themselves the art, the artist, and some of the marketing, it's a win-win, because being in your studio gives a secondary validation to their credibility. So it brings it up a level as well. But it also really, to me, would be extremely important that they also brought their tribe to your community.
Yeah, well, that's like a hairdresser. I mean, if you're a hairdresser with a following, somebody's much more happy to give you a chair in their salon than someone that has no following.
Would you share some things not to do? Because I'm a big advocate of, often what trips us up the most in my success coaching is the areas we aren't conscious of. So you said one is plop the art down, just point blank. I think being overbearing and not building rapport with you all would probably be on that list. Yeah. What else?
Somebody that wants to take over, which again, we have, and they come in and they say, oh, you know what, this would be great if you did this, and if you did this and you did this. We feel like we've been pretty successful, and we have more of a soft approach rather than a hard sell. And somebody that comes in and wants to redecorate the gallery, I think we would both say, let's run in the other direction.
And another thing I think of too is that we don't want an artist that is showing down the street. In other words, there's sort of an unwritten non-compete clause, maybe. It's fine if they're in another town nearby, but we have 5 or 6 galleries right here in our little town. And if you're showing in one of the others, it's not good for the artist, and it's not good for us.
Okay, that's great that you brought that up as well. So, for your gallery, as you mentioned, you're a local gallery and you consider yourself a little bit smaller gallery. How much work would an audience or an artist, what would you want the body of their work to be that they could display or show in your gallery? 5 pieces, 10 pieces? I'm sorry, I wasn't very clear, but.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the space that they want. We have quarter walls and we have half walls.
And we have studios.
So we have less rules if somebody has a studio, and we encourage them to work here because people want to meet the artists. They want to interact with the artists. So if they're going to get a studio, we prefer that they just not use it for display, that they actually work in the studio so people can come in and watch them.
They love to watch artists at work.
If it's wall space, then it depends on how much wall space they have, and then they don't overcrowd it, and it's just that it's an aesthetic presentation.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as what do you have a particular submission process that you use for your artists, that they follow a formal process, or is it individuals, and you're more informal about it?
Well, there are times that we wish that we were a little bit more, that, we would pick and choose what pieces they brought in, because there are times that we're not thrilled with each piece that they bring in. We don't like to dictate, because they can't hang it out. We do all the hanging, but they can't bring it in. And then by the way, we don't like this. Mm-hmm. We haven't done that. And we probably also should, with something that's not selling, we should probably encourage the artist to change it out. We do ask in the agreement that we have that they change out their art every 3 months, and they don't necessarily do it. I mean, certainly right now during COVID, that's not even practical. But we do try to encourage them to keep changing what's on the walls, because this way it always looks fresh, it always looks new, and people aren't going to come in and say, oh, I saw that already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. And do you work together with them on the pricing, or do you set the pricing?
No,
they do it.
They do it. There's one of our woodworkers, I have to tell him, wait a second, that's not enough. And he says, yeah. So, I mean, sometimes we actually increase the price because, it's too low, but pretty much they set their own prices.
That's nice, because you have the expertise to know how you can help them with that. So that I'm sure that's very helpful to them.
I think this is an excellent piece, and this is what we wanted to have artists note is think about the gallery, think about the space, think about how to bring more people to your space, think about how to add value to your space, think about appreciating what you've already done with your space. That's something else I've heard. Kind of notice, accept what they have versus coming in and going, well, I wouldn't do it that way. Well, sorry, but no one cares. This is, you pay the rent, you have the liability risk, you have the insurance, for that space. You've earned the right to have that space, and it's important an artist comes in understanding that. And then also the idea of building rapport with some of the other artists. Now, some people think rapport means I call the person up and go, will you help me get into an art studio? I always say, look, I'm calling you because I saw you in the studio, and I'd like to earn your trust enough that you'd want to help me in. How can I help you? And, that kind of upfront approach, most people appreciate it. It's not where it's a cloaked, there's something in it for me. I want to earn your trust, so you'd want to help me out. Is there anything I can do to help? Could we meet and find out? Mm-hmm. And I think that's some of the takeaways I hear from this. And also the other thing is you want to study the pricing in your area. If you make it too low, then they'll think you're a commodity and undervalue. And if you make it too high outside the domain of it, it will just be, we don't get that type of money in this area for something.
Well, so maybe after the streetscape is done, maybe we'll all increase all of our prices.
Right.
I know you're looking.
It's just like houses in an area. It's all relative to what's around.
Absolutely.
So they could do some footwork and really have an idea of pricing just by showing up and meeting. The other thing I loved with you all is if you come in and you're nice and be up front with artists, we're pretty open. It sounds like you enjoy learning about other art. Even if it doesn't fit in, you might, you never know. You might go, it's not us, but I check Judy's down the area. A lot of their art fits into that.
We've done that. And I had one person come in. She had just moved to the area, and she showed me a few examples of her work. And I said, I'm not even going to wait for the other 4 owners we want you. We don't want you to go down the street. We want you here now.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's great. I thought of one other thing I might ask you, since you are both artists as well. Is there anything more from your experience in submitting perhaps to galleries prior to your owning your own gallery here? Anything you learned or lessons you learned or experiences you'd want to share from how you built up your reputation, for instance, and began showing in galleries, or perhaps were showing your work in galleries that were a little different than yours now?
I was in one other gallery, which was a co-op, and I was invited. They had lost their jeweler, so I was invited to come in there, and, they had to look over my work and stuff, and, I was accepted. And then I moved from there to the large art gallery across the street. And of course, then we started Lemonade. So that's the only experience I have. I haven't attempted to get into a gallery and was turned down. I hate rejection. So,
and I'm new at it too. So the one thing I might add too, we have a room in the back of our gallery that we use as a classroom, and we are able to attract a lot of students here who in turn go through the gallery. As they walk through the gallery, they see things, and so I think that's brought a lot of business to the gallery, is having the students here.
for sure.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a great way to expose people to the art.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate everything you've shared. I think it's going to be very helpful to our artists that we're talking with. And I have to come visit you.
Yes.
Please do.
I've not had that pleasure. So I want to come see your gallery. And I know you're looking forward to that road, all of the work that's being done out there to be done.
Well, the pavers were actually delivered today. So other than a massive thunderstorm that we just had, they're working on the sidewalks at the other end of the street. So we're getting there.
Maybe we should take lemonade to them.
Yeah.
To get going.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, they started at the other end of the street. So they're working their way west.
Right. Say lemonades when you get down here.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. And it's been very helpful, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Martin?
Yeah, it was excellent. I'm so excited, and I think you gave some great tips for artists to understand and how to find where the right fit is. It's all about the win-win relationship.
Absolutely.
And maximizing that, especially in a small town. And you have one of the anchor things for people to come to visit. So if they join you and share and multiply that, people who don't want to drive as far could come from another town and be able to enjoy what's going on. It could be a family event. So this is excellent. And what we're all about is supporting small and micro businesses across North Carolina, because we see it as the backbone of the community. And thank you for your time.
Okay.
You're
Well, thank
welcome.
you. And we will see you, I guess, next week.
We look forward to it. It'll be
Okay.
fun to see all the video things that are going on, or hear what your plans are. So
And I'll make sure that we're on the right one this time, instead of just sitting here looking at the screen saying, okay, what's happening?
well, I'm glad you didn't give up. Thank you for waiting for us.
All right. Have a great week.
Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
now.
Bye.